Hey, welcome to Horns Up. This is episode number 54. And after a hat trick, 3 weeks of Canadian guests, who do we have on the show this time, Peter?
This week we go all across the Atlantic to United Kingdom. We've got Hamish Glencross of the UK-based act Godthrymm.
And why are we getting Hamish Glencross of the UK-based act Godthrymm?
So Hamish, for those of you who might remember him, was part of My Dying Bride and also Valenfry. And this time he goes back to his roots of doom metal, epic, if you may call it, with their debut album, Reflections. You had a chance to listen to it. What did you think of it, Animesh?
It's an old school doom album. And as meat and potatoes go, sometimes it's necessary for everyone to come back and have your good filling of meat and potatoes so that you know where the bar kind of rests. It's your comfort food. It's your palate cleanser, which then overall eventually will lead you to pop for the increasingly poppier or, I don't know, more masaledar stuff. So I wholly recommend a portion of meat and potatoes each and every day, just so that you don't lose touch with your basics. And that's what I make of the album.
Yeah, and Reflections is exactly that. I mean, it is one of those doom albums which sounds very familiar, but here it's kind of channeled in a new way, if I may. And yeah, man, it was coincidentally or not coincidentally released on 14th of Feb, Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it would have been like a dark listen for those alone on Valentine's Day.
I hope you're not projecting. I hope you weren't projecting, actually. Anyways, here he is, Hamish Glencross.
Hi, Hamish. Welcome to Horns Up. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. I'm really happy right now. I'm seeing the reviews for the album starting to come in, and it's amazing. It's been a long time coming. So checking out people's reactions to our hard work is just really great. Well, thankfully, because people are saying nice things so far, so that's really cool. So I'm in a good mood. How are you?
We're pretty good too. All right. So, Hamish, before we get into Godthrymm and your new album Reflections, let's go back to when you got into metal. How did you get into metal and then eventually doom metal?
Well, I was very fortunate that my parents have quite an extensive album collection. And so I was first expressing a bit of interest into like heavy metal music by seeing album covers from Iron Maiden and thought the artwork looked amazing. And I was, thought the whole look of, guys with long hair and, these fantastical images really appealed to me as a young boy. And my parents actually had some Black Sabbath and Deep Purple vinyl records that I played and loved. And then my dad would get me, new albums from car boot sales or just cheap sales, and so I would get things like MSG and Girl School, and I just absolutely loved it. And then as time progressed and I got more into heavier kind of music, it was I was simultaneously enjoying the thrash scene, but also then turned really kind of back onto doom as well from hearing Paradise Lost as they were starting out. I knew Tuds Archer initially, the original Paradise Lost drummer. I knew him from school, and so I was hearing them very early. And I'd already loved Black Sabbath and Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom, all that kind of stuff was just fantastic. And now hearing slow, heavier, darker music, I just found it absolutely amazing. And so from Paradise Lost, then was like, discovering My Dying Bride and Anathema, and then digging deeper into that scene, and it was just so exciting, and it was emotional, passionate kind of music. Greg McIntosh's lead guitar work is just haunting, beautiful, misery or sadness over quite ugly harmonies and riffs underneath, and it was just amazing. And from that point, I was absolutely drawn to slow, melancholic, heavy metal music, and I've been doing various variations of that over the last quite a few years now.
So that's a lot of different kind of bands that you mentioned. Um, what do you think it was about, um, let me phrase it in a different manner. Uh, what really was the appeal of this particular sound in this entire sphere of metal?
I think it was the contrast between really detuned, very dirty, heavy riffs, but with really kind of, this sorrowful lead guitar or harmonies over the top of it. And it just seemed to kind of connect on an emotional level that was just very, very powerful. And that was kind of really the first thing that just kind of blew me away. It was just kind of how much emotion that guitars could carry. And the vocals were less immediate to me, really. I was paying just total attention to what the guitars were doing, and that was what really, really appealed and stood out to me.
All right. So, I was looking up, you've been in quite a few bands, and what your earliest band is Solstice. You joined them and you performed on their second album, New Dark Age, in 1998. When you're looking now, does it feel like 22 years have passed?
In some ways, yes. In others, no, because it's been a very eventful 22 years. So time kind of just seems to have flown past because I've always been very, very busy in different aspects of music and life as well. So like kind of time's just flown by. I can't believe now that at this age and that album, for instance, is 22 years ago. But then when I think back to those times and how it was like creating that album, and then also being in bands prior to that as well, it does also kind of feel like a lifetime ago. So it seems to have gone by very, very quickly. But when I try and think back, it almost seems like another life. And I know that may sound contradictory, may not make sense, but that's just kind of how life goes, I guess, really. And it's so important to kind of appreciate the moment as you're living in it, because life and time flies by so quickly.
Yeah, and if we fast forward now to all those years to 2017, you started Godthrymm. How did it feel to start afresh, having been in all these bands over the past couple of decades?
So it was exciting doing something new from the ground upwards. But the original plan, the original inspiration for starting Godthrymm was just really reconnecting to that original style of music that I'd got so excited about, like way over 30 years ago now, and just how excited I was hearing that music for the first time, and what I loved about those albums back then. So Godthrymm was my way of just trying to really reconnect to that music again. I'd been on the Decibel tour in America as part of a package with At the Gates and Converge and Pallbearer when I was in Valenfire. We were opening the show, and I spent a lot of time with the guys in Pallbearer. I heard what they were doing and absolutely loved it. And they were telling me that they loved so much of the albums I'd been a part of in the past, and they wanted to hear stories about how those albums were created. And we spoke about songs and albums I hadn't really thought about that much. So coming back off that tour, I spoke to some of my old friends that I'd made music with in the past, like Sean and Chaz, and we'd been in Solstice together. And of course, me and Sean had been in My Dying Bride together for quite a long time. And we just wanted to play that old style of music and just really enjoy it, quite selfishly, just for ourselves. But then, as we started writing some songs, it became clear that we were real passionate about creating something new, and this really was a new band, and it was exciting seeing it from that first inception, and then obviously it developed over time. And as we became more serious, we had a couple of lineup changes, and we really refined our focus to be dead set on the style that we're doing now. It was exciting and interesting. And not long before then, I'd seen Greg McIntosh creating Valenfire from the ground upwards. And, he is, an incredibly experienced, giant of the scene. And when he invited me to become part of Valenfire with him, I was seeing that band from the ground upwards. And that was very inspiring too. And that, also kind of helped make me think that it would be wonderful to do my own passion project from the ground upwards. And that brings us to now, I guess.
Okay, so considering all the bands you've been part of and this want to start Godthrymm, do you feel any pressure from the expectations that people had, or that you yourself set upon yourself when you started Godthrymm?
See, that so not so much at the start, but as we went on and we started writing, music together, me and Sean, and it was clear that this was very important to us, and it was going to continue on as a band. The pressure came completely kind of from myself, really. I approached this album very much with the mindset that if this was the last album I was ever to record, how would this represent me as a musician and represent my musical history? And that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to have a single album that said, yes, that's what I did. That's what I wanted to do. That's the music that I, was most passionate about creating. And so that's why as time went on, it became a more focused, singular vision. And I put the pressure on myself more so than thinking about expectations of other people. For me, this had to be the album that I could stand back and say, yep, that's what I did. So it was quite selfish in intent, but it also meant that I had the highest standards put upon myself, and I can stand back and be proud of what we've created and say, yep, that is a really true representation of where my heart and soul lie, where music is concerned.
So I was reading one of your interviews with Decibel magazine, and I quote something you said in there. The debut Godthrymm album will be the 10th original studio album I've been part of. Yet it feels like first, considering the importance of this album for me. So just related to what you said earlier, could you just expand a bit more with regards to Reflections?
Definitely, because yes, it's the 10th studio album I've been a part of, and I've always been able to contribute something musically to each of the albums that I've been a part of. I've always been writing music and bringing ideas in, but then it's always been as a collaborative kind of process, and that's great, getting other people's ideas and input, and creating something together. And with the one exception, of course, being the first Valenfire album, which was absolutely singularly Greg McIntosh's album all in a way through. And so then I wanted to be able to do something more like that, where I could completely have free reign, and just being able to completely indulge all the ideas of if a section was going to have multiple guitar layers and harmonies, then just to go ahead and do that, and just do things the way that I would have in mind, without any kind of a compromise involved, or disagreement in vision. And that's kind of also how the band lineup ended up being streamlined as time went on, because we wanted less kind of input of people wanting to kind of write and steer a direction, and just try and maintain it to just being a very singular kind of vision of what we're doing. So yes, there have been other people have made wonderful contributions to the albums in terms of a couple of musical ideas and lyrics and vocal ideas, but for the most part, musically, it really is very much the sound of how I write and record music.
All right. So one thing I want to just dwell a bit upon is the sound of Reflections. I mean, when I was listening to the album, and I did a reference listen to your initial EP that you put out, one of the first things I realized is on Reflections, it's far more robust.
Yeah.
If I may, uh,
Mm.
could you tell us how that shift happened in overall? I mean, you did mention the change in lineup, but would it have been? And again, you spoke about it being your singular vision. So, could you tell us a bit about that with regards to the sound?
Yeah, so that was uh, partially responsible as well to the kind of gear that I was using, the amplifiers that I want to use, and having the bass sound a particular way, and just being able to have loud valve amplifiers absolutely kind of cranked up, and the recording process was just more about kind of capturing kind of the energy and the live acoustics of a big room. The studio was a big difference. We had the privilege of recording at Toolmaker Studio in Sheffield with Nathan Bailey, and he's got a wonderful big live room, and he's all about capturing performance and capturing the sounds. So we could set up a big wall of amps and just say to him, right, that's the sound we want, can you capture that? Whereas when we did the first EP, it was all a bit quieter, smaller rooms, a bit muted, but it was right at the time. We were, limited a bit by kind of budget and time, and just finding out the best way to go about things. So for the album, I was taking a bit of influence on some of the more kind of approach and recording techniques of like God City Studio in Salem, where I did the last couple of Valenfire albums. So taking some of those ideas, but applying it over here in creating a Doom album. And so slightly different approach in regards to recording techniques, the equipment that we used, and also then the fact that of course I played all the guitars on the entirety of the album, and of most of the bass guitar on tracks as well. So it's very much the kind of the sound of one person playing for a lot of it, and that just gives a very cohesive sound, really. So I get that's in part of it, but I really must give praise and thanks to Nathan Bailey. He did an amazing job, and then Mark Midgley for Northern Mastering. The mastering process is so important and gets overlooked at times, but he really helps get the perfect balance between loud, heavy, without clipping and distorting, which sometimes albums can really suffer from having trying to be pushed too loud, but at the expense of sound quality. This is something we took care and attention over, and I think we've got a really good balance for it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's very dynamically sound in that sense. So I think now is an opportune time for us to play a track from Reflections to tell our audience what we have already heard. Which track should we play and why?
Oh, well, at the moment, I think my favorite's probably the song called The Light of You. And I just love how, it's so big and grand, crushing at first. And it's also a song I'm very, very proud of my vocal performance on as well. I've not shied away from really wearing my vocal influences on my sleeve, and I think it kind of tells that I was, I've been listening to a lot of Tom Waits over the years, and but I think it really works in this style of music, and it's something slightly different. So I think this is a great song. It's huge crushing riffs, strong melodic content, and a vocal performance I'm very proud of. Sean sounds fantastic on it as well. He's just a big war machine of a drummer with tons of personality. So yeah, and I would want to pick The Light of You, and I hope you enjoy it.
The album released on 14th February. Now, was that an intentional move or coincidental, as most, metal releases are out on Fridays?
So the actual choice of the day, the being a Friday, that was ultimately up to Profound Law Records. The specific timing of when it was coming out is purely because we'd finished recording the album, went through the mixing phase and then mastering, and that was bringing us up to like November, December time. And throughout kind of December and even into January, um, typically folk have got a lot on with families and New Year and a lot of pressures that way. So we thought just let that kind of pass through, and getting into February is an ideal time to look at a new year, new release. And it's also real nice that it ties in nicely with like my birthday, for instance, as well. And the fact that it was released on 14th of February as well, being Valentine's Day, then then it's a song for all you lovers out there.
But just to clarify, when is your birthday?
It was the 13th of February.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So,
Allow us to indulge a little bit. Now, on the FAQ section of your website, you state that the only cover you played live is Black Sabbath. It's interesting you say that because uh, the year that we're in, 2020, the album turns 50 years old, or
yeah,
it turned 50 years old. Why is Black Sabbath so special?
it's just the absolute definitive doom song that there is. The atmosphere that's created, the huge crushing riff that comes in with the most sinister sounding inversions. The vocals are just wailing and pained. But the instrumentation comes down to the quiet darkness. There's just such a threat of a looming darkness. It's just incredible. I remember listening to that for the first time as a kid and was just I was almost scared by it, really, because it was just conjuring such an incredible scene, and it really was like a horror film made music, and it's just absolutely the blueprint of then what comes afterwards. It picks up the pace, and got the solo at the end, and it's just a phenomenal song. So it's the anniversary, and also just one of the most important songs in the history of me listening to music and the history of heavy music across the board. There's so much is owed to that song and that band. And but yeah, it's the only cover song that we've played live, but we were actually also rehearsing another one at the same time as well, but we didn't do that live. We were also been playing around with a Twisted Sister song for a long time, but
Wow.
but we haven't done that live yet. We must do at some point because it's a great song. I don't know if you know "Destroyer" by Twisted
Yeah,
Sister. Oh,
yeah,
what a song!
yeah.
And so we've been playing with that on and off for a couple of years, but we haven't done it live yet.
It'll be really interesting to see how a band like yours manages to put their own spin on that kind of a song.
Oh yeah, the song is just it just lends itself to it so well. So we'll definitely do it at some point in some version. But we did Black Sabbath live because that was Bob's first show with Godthrymm. That was a show in Tilburg in Holland, and it was a wonderful show. It was great, and so we did that right at the end of the set, and it was just great fun. It was a great way to end a great night.
I just wanted to switch things up for the next couple of questions. And again, this is just from the research I did about you. So I thought it would be fun or interesting, at least, to get your viewpoints on this. So, in one of the interviews I read, you saying, I was on tour with Valenfra for a couple of months before our wedding, only returning a couple of days before. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things, being in a metal band, you kind of have to make that trade off. So, what are the things that you do to kind of maintain the balance between being a metal musician, touring, and your personal life?
It's hard to balance them. I'm very fortunate that I've got a very patient and understanding wife. My wife Catherine's amazing, really, and so I've even had to I've taken her out to shows I've been playing when she was like heavily pregnant
Oh, wow.
because so like I did a show booked in Iceland, for instance, and but yeah, she was really quite pregnant at that point, and so didn't want to be a part of that point in time. So she actually came over to Iceland with us as well, and yeah, she's hard. She's one tough, inspiring lady, and she's been very patient over the years, and I'm very thankful for that. But now life changes, and now as our daughters are getting that bit older, I certainly can't be away from home as much as I used to be in the past, because it's incredible thinking back now that I was away so much, like just before our wedding, and I was out in America recording with a plan of like getting back just before one of our daughters was born, and it's incredible now when I think, geez, she was very patient and put up with a lot, because it is hard juggling,
Yeah.
these lives, and but it's so important to to give family the attention that it needs and deserves, and so that's why now I don't think I could bear to be away from home for great long stretches of time like I used to be. I still very much want to be playing live and still travel and do things, but it's not going to be for we wouldn't be able to count it in months anyway. That's for certain.
Yeah. So, the next question I have just looks at, based on what current state the music industry is, where you were focused more on streaming and things like that. And if it wasn't hard enough to be in a metal band back then, now it's far harder looking at the financial returns. So, when you're in a metal band, and more so a doom metal band, again, which is a very niche genre in itself, it's really hard. So, if you don't mind me asking, how do you kind of supplement being in a metal band, with either a day job or how does that work out?
Oh, absolutely. Got to have a day job now as well, and that works very well for me now, really, because I'm not solely reliant upon music, and I'm not having to think as much about you know is something I'm recording going to sell well, or what are current trends doing, what is the scene looking like. That really doesn't kind of matter at all to me when I'm writing and recording. Now the focus is just purely on satisfying my kind of inspiration and desire to create and creating things in the way that I want to do, regardless of what's happening in the music scene at large. So in some ways it's kind of liberating, and also it's just a very honest and truthful way of working, and not to say that people still doing full-time music aren't being true to themselves. But I do know it would be more of a consideration for some people where you've got to think about having to be part of a cycle of having to write and record every so often, and keep the money coming in, bills being paid. So I do have a day job now as well, and have for a number of years now, and it works together well, and I'm pleased to kind of have that, because it's a way that I can support my family and maintain the life that I've got, and be responsible. And when I go to the music, it's for the complete freedom of doing exactly what it is that I want to do, and I think that's great. And it's also means that when I am creating music, it's influenced and kind of fueled by a lot more life experience as well, and very genuine kind of worries and concerns about the world, and trying to do the best in this world. So it's I don't see it as a bad thing. I'm pleased with that.
And do any of your colleagues at work know that you play in a metal band?
I've always kind of tried to downplay it a little bit, but it certainly sometimes kind of comes up, because the thing is, if it does kind of come up, because I've got a particular look, and so sometimes people are asked like, "Oh, do you play in a band?" And it's like, "Oh, yeah, I've done a bit of that in the past," and you just know then they're gonna say like, "Oh, where are you playing?" "We'll come and watch you," and it's like, yeah, I don't think so. So people might start viewing me in a different way, and also it's hard for some people to kind of understand that. Yeah, I used to play in bands a lot more, but if they start then looking online and seeing that, like, hang on, you've played in how many different countries, you've done so many different albums, and why are you working here? They don't understand what a very different world it is. So I try and downplay it as much as possible, but it is hard sometimes, because I've still very much got the hair, the tattoos, the look, and look the same way that I have done for almost 30 years now.
Yeah. It always makes for, like, these kind of conversations always make for interesting conversations.
Oh, yeah.
There's always this sense of trepidation and judgment that's kind of happening.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, and I'd certainly would kind of be concerned if some people kind of read too much into kind of lyrics and imagery and things in the past, and then kind of wonder like oh, are you a depressive person, or are you a very morbid person, and it's just obviously not the case. We do this kind of style of music because it's a really good cathartic way of channeling and working through negative energies and frustrations and angers, and it's a really good release that way. So we can do this dark, heavy, angry music, and then go back to our lives being well adjusted, happy people for the most part.
Okay, so you launched the album with a show at the Unicorn Camden in London. What's next? Are you looking to take this album out onto the road?
Absolutely, because this lineup just works together so well with just the three of us. We've got such a great dynamic, because each of us has got the sonic space to play to our fullest. We can use the sounds that we want to do without like treading on each other's toes, and there's such a good kind of chemistry where we could just really let our hair down and just really kind of go for it. And we've done a few shows together now since becoming this three-piece, and I love the dynamic of it. It gives the songs a very different energy and feel to the album, and so I really like the kind of slightly different interpretations that comes with that. So at the moment, right now, the reviews are out and coming out, and people's reactions just great. So just wanting to kind of make the most of that and try and play as many places as we can, and share the music and check out the reactions with as many folks as possible whilst we can, because as I was saying earlier, life's short. You don't know how long we get to do this for, so we want to do it kind of whilst we can, and we love spending time together. So it's we're very fortunate in the band dynamic. So I hope we get to do a bit more, but no, we won't be going out on the road for months at a time. But we just kind of want each show to be special, a bit of an event. So we've got a few things lined up in Europe and also closer to home, and we'll just see what we can do, really. But it's a great live band, and it would be a shame to not do as much live that we can.
Thank you so much, Hamish, for your time. It's really great to hear from you, and especially after both of us really enjoyed your latest album, Reflections. I don't know what else to say, but thank you so much again. Horns up.
Well, thank you so incredibly much. It's an absolute joy and a pleasure talking to you, and I'm so glad that you enjoy the album. Thank you so much for your time and enthusiasm. It really means a lot to me. As I say, so many years into doing this now, but all this just feels so very fresh and so very new, and it really is the excitement that I had when I was first getting into this scene. So thank you very much.
So, Peter, what do your co-workers think about you as a metalhead? Is that something you display or showcase?
Well, I think the only outside display I have of being a metalhead is 2 tattoos. That's the only thing people can
Yeah,
kind
but
of
your
associate.
tattoos aren't really out there.
Yeah, but I still remember a couple
They're
of
well
weeks.
hidden underneath t-shirts.
So a couple of weeks ago, I was at a show and I met an old colleague from work. And the first thing he said to me was, "I didn't take you for a metalhead." I was like, okay. I guess the dad image is kind of stuck with me now more than the metalhead.
Yeah, that may be true.
But I mean, since you play in a couple of bands, I'm sure like everyone kind of knows about you being a metalhead.
Well, the long hair, the facial hair, and the tattoos kind of always peg me to be more of a rocker, as everyone says, than a metalhead. But of course, people start off by first asking, "Hey, do you play music, or are you in a band?" And I say yes. And then the next question is, "Oh, cool. Okay, can I listen to something?" And then I direct them to the Riot Peddlers or to Solar DT, and both of them, and usually like out of 10 people, 9 will just turn off the headphones or the speakers and go away, never to bring up the fact that I play music.
Maybe the next Riot Peddler show, we should like call them or stuff like that. Just see the mosh pit.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but anyways, I remember a long time back on Invisible Oranges, shout out to Cosmo Lee, there was this brilliant article about being metal and working in a workplace where, I mean, we'll try and link it in the show notes, because that was a fantastic read about how essentially work is not just a great place for metalheads, because and especially solitary workplaces or work that you do largely without interaction from a lot of people. So yeah, that'll be in the show notes. Please do give that a read. I think a lot of our listeners, which means the 3 of us or the 2 of us, will resonate with that.
That's it for this episode.
Yep, you can find us, connect with us, chat with us at hornsuppod.com. And till the next time, horns up.
Horns up.